So welcome back, everyone, to the Cura podcast. My apologies that it's been such a long time since I have updated this podcast. I do hope to be able to bring a lot of very, very interesting content moving forward, and we're going to start off with an interview, a series of interviews with a woman called Gemma McDonnell, who has an amazing story when it comes to Cura Romana. She has done the Cura Romana Inner Circle twice, once with Leslie and once with myself. And through that process, she was actually able to say goodbye to her Lyme disease, which is absolutely phenomenal. And her story is really, really fascinating. Now, through this process, we actually became very close friends and really a wonderful collaboration in terms of being able to share the different knowledge that each of us has in terms of being able to support individuals' health. And through this process, we have actually started a collaboration to really combine the work that she does with Focus Health, which is her company, and Cura Romana. And what this has allowed us to do is really to take on some of the more challenging health issues that different people face. So this is really the first episode of this. And so really it's describing her own story of Cura Romana, and we touch a little bit on some of the work that she does. And then in further episodes, we will go into more in depth some of the healing modalities that both of us have been using and found to be quite remarkable in terms of really making a big difference to people's real significant health challenges that they have been facing. So this is the first episode, first interview. I hope you enjoy. All right. Just love to kind of speak to you about really a little bit of our history, a little bit of how we met, and also really your experience of Cura Romana. And I'd also really love to cover what you have started to create, really, with Focus Health. Not that it's just been created, but really the new devices, the new machines have all kind of come together relatively recently. So yeah, first of all, for those that don't know you as well as I do, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your history with the healing modalities?
So let me start with my journey, maybe from Cura Romana, because that is where I ended up doing what I do, really. Um, so about um, 13 years ago, or 12 maybe, between 12 and 13 years ago, I had really noticed that my health was really, really deteriorating. It had gone downhill from a pregnancy, or well, really two pregnancies that I was after going through. So I think probably my 20s was really, my health wasn't wonderful, to be honest. And I think I probably just endured that, really. I just kind of accepted it as something that was normal. Um, and then when I got to my late 20s and I had my first baby, um, my health really did deteriorate. All of the symptoms that I was experiencing really in my 20s became really, really evident, um, like exhaustion and weakness in my body. Brain fog was unbelievable. Really low mood, really low coping ability. The list goes on. And I suppose when I had my first baby and after I had her, I really didn't recover. I don't think I really ever recovered from the whole thing. And then probably just before she was a year old, I conceived my second baby. And my weight, I think by the time I was 7 weeks pregnant with him, I had gained a stone in weight, which clearly wasn't right. So there was something wrong with that. So I had gone to my doctor, actually, I think with my daughter's regular checkup that you have at a year old or whatever. And sort of a side note, I mentioned it to him, and he said, you know, we need to take some tests. So my thyroid was absolutely off the charts. It was horrendous. I had underactive thyroid, to say the least. So we really had to try and get that, you know, recovered. But we didn't really, to be honest. I was on medication in that pregnancy, but it didn't really. I never caught up really. So I think after he was born, within the months really after he was born, up to maybe 5 or 6 months, it just got worse and worse and worse. And my thyroid was kind of swinging overactive and underactive. And, you know, I did all the usual things. I walked 4 miles a day. I went on the usual point system type scenario for weight loss. And it just got worse. And I was getting worse. So I think the turning point was when, you know, I had that call from the doctor to say, really sorry, but your bloods have to go up again. And to be honest, I hung up the phone and I sobbed and sobbed and thought, I can't. I think it was the light bulb moment I had where I realized this is not going to change. And, you know, this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. And it's definitely not going to change. So I called him back and said, you know, this is what I want to do. And he said, go for it. So I contacted Leslie, and I spoke with her, and she chatted for quite a while on the phone, and she agreed to work with me, thankfully. And really, you know, I suppose the main thing that all I could see was weight. That's it. Couldn't see any other, you know, all the other symptoms were sort of something that was unfortunate or just happening. But all I could see really was weight. But it was really, as I went through Cura Romana, the weight did become the benefit at the end of it all. I didn't know or realize really what was going to happen. And basically that is where I came to the realization that Cura Romana actually is, in fact, detoxification to the body, and not just the body, but the mind as well. So everything changed, and it literally turned my life around for me. And, you know, my sleep improved. It didn't just improve, it was amazing. My mood lifted, you know, I got sort of motivated in life, if you like. It's like I woke up. It was like an awakening, really. And everything just kind of went from there. So it really was life-changing. And I suppose all the benefits that happened for Cura Romana at the time stayed with me, always stayed with me. It's like once I became conscious of the changes, and once I became conscious of what way I was and what way I am now, I couldn't unlearn it. It stayed with me. So it was really wonderful. So you know, all of those benefits stayed easily for years. And then I had a third and a fourth baby after that. And I think really that is when I sort of realized I had a diagnosis in that, where I had blood taken and I had Lyme disease, as did my son, my third child. And really, I think I realized that what Cura Romana had done was put whatever it was, excessive inflammation, you know, excessive toxins, you know, excessive stress, it took all of that and it kind of just wound it all down, and it put me into some kind of remission. And becoming pregnant almost kicked that off again. It was like cellular memory. It's like my body went, oh, she's pregnant. I know what to do. And it was like it kicked into some kind of protection or something. I don't know, but literally the weight then again started to kind of come back on. And then the symptoms, not the emotional symptoms, but the physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Did start to come back, but particularly after my fourth baby. So really, I think what happened was that the change that happened in my symptoms, they became cognitive. So I started to have difficulty with memory. Memory as in, I'm talking to you and I can't remember what your name is, or what an object was, or couldn't say, give me the fork. I was like, I just couldn't think. And also I had episodes of paralysis in the body where I just couldn't move. I had episodes where my speech was going strange. So that was when I had my bloods done, which was after my fourth baby. And we took our son to get his bloods done because he was experiencing also cognitive problems. He basically couldn't walk very far. He had a full body tremor. He had excessive heat in his body, and and on and on and on goes the list of things that was appearing. So after that, result, we'll call it, with blood tests, is where really I turned back to Cura Romana, which is where I met you. Again, thankfully. So I suppose the difference with this is that when I worked with Leslie, or when I did it in the first place, I didn't realize what I was facing. I mean, in hindsight, I probably had Lyme disease throughout my whole 20s and just didn't I just wasn't paying attention to it enough. I worked very hard. I worked very long shifts, and I think I just was kind of just pushing it down and not giving enough attention to it. So, when we worked together, with the knowledge that I had gained and with the understanding that I had gained from the first time I did it until then, was how the body detoxifies and what we need to do to detoxify it. What organs are essential to support in order to allow the body to detoxify. And also then the diet aspect where we were, well, with Cura Romana, we got rid of the sugar, the dairy, the gluten, all of those things, and really became very tuned in to exactly what was necessary for the body to support it. My son obviously couldn't do Cura Romana, but we took sugar, dairy, gluten. He turned out to be celiac anyway, but
Yeah.
we did the same thing for him, and worked very closely with emotions, emotional traumas, locked in traumas, or emotions into the body. And really we did a whole program really for him and a whole program for me. And I worked very closely with you through that, and gained a deeper understanding of what it was that I was doing. And from there, and the great results that we got, subsequent bloods cleared us of Lyme. We didn't have anything anymore.
It's absolutely incredible.
Essentially, yeah, it was amazing, really, and a relief, to say the least.
God.
A real relief. But it did take understanding, and I think that is where it has brought me now to the work that I do now, which does include lots and lots of methodologies and including Corona as part of that for people who really do need it. So yeah, that's how I got here, essentially.
Excuse me. That's quite an incredible story. I've heard it because we've spoken many times before, but to hear it, the chronological timeline of how that occurred, it's just absolutely amazing. Um, and so your son and yourself now are completely Lyme free, at least in terms of
Yeah,
the bloods. Yeah.
blood in terms of the bloods, yeah. So we do have to keep an eye on him. He, you wouldn't let him loose in the supermarket, put it that way.
Well, I would
He
say
would
that that should be said for any
he would
child.
he'd eat anything he got his hands on, sugar wise or anything else, if you let him. And it does affect him when he does. But no, honestly, it's quite extraordinary, to see him. We did take him to a woman in London, which was really nutritional support. It was what we chose to do at the time. Um, and we went to London with him, and we literally carried him. He's either in a buggy and he was 4 or 5. And you had to carry him or push him, because he just couldn't walk very far.
Yeah.
And or else his kind of his legs would just go. He could be sitting at the kitchen table, and then he'd get up and come to you, and he'd just fall. The legs would just go.
Wow.
So she did comment to me that he is going to end up in a wheelchair. And probably that this is not really, if we can't kind of get this sorted. But he is really phenomenal, and it's amazing to watch him standing at the side of the football pitch, watching him play football, or running in the, he's down in the athletics club locally, and he's in the football team, and he's on his bike, and he's up and down the farm, and he's amazing, and it's really extraordinary to watch. And I think he's 9 now, and I think probably he's not even aware, really. He remembers going to London, and he remembers not feeling well, but he doesn't really know, what was going on for him. So, it is amazing. It is amazing to watch, and yeah, I'm very pleased. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about when people recover. I mean, I remember from a very, very, silly story in comparison, but I injured my back many, many years ago from falling off scaffolding. And, the pain that was there was quite considerable. And I'd made certain shifts and certain changes, and the pain just kind of disappeared very, very slowly over time. And it was like I didn't even realize or remember that I was in pain once with my lower back, because it just disappeared. And it's like once it's gone, you don't have to continue live with the memory of the pain and the trauma of being sick for such a long, long period of time. That was very interesting as well about the pregnancy kind of really kind of affecting the symptoms, increasing them considerably. And I wonder how much of that is um, whenever there is a pregnancy, the entire focus of the body is on the growing child. And in which case, anything that was able to be held in balance um, uh, when the focus was not on the growing child just uh, disappears, because the main focus is entirely on making sure that every resource of the body is affecting the growing child, and everything else is just inflammation increases, the struggles increase, and so yeah, it's like your body was able to keep it in balance when you weren't, but when the main focus became something else, then the homeostasis just disappeared entirely. And yeah, I'm so pleased that Cura Romana was able to be so helpful. Um, I'm always surprised, and when Leslie and I started it, um, we were we realized that weight loss was the side benefit, and neither of us cared particularly about weight loss, but it seemed to do something so much more um, dramatic, but very graceful and very simple in the way it just seemed to restore balance throughout the entire system. And that to this day has always been the reason why I've continued and why we started it in the first place. Um, yeah, wow, wow, okay, beautiful
It
story.
is, but it's it's also, I think, um, when you're talking about, the pregnancy, I wonder, if I ever, if I didn't have a third or fourth baby, would I have continued to remain in the place I was, which was probably nearing 4 years after I had finished it in the first place. It
Mm.
was perfectly balanced. And I do wonder sometimes, about that. But also, I do really think that there is this sort of survival that kicks in. And there's nothing more protective than a mother of her child. And I
Yeah.
think I think it's like, almost like it was just like an instinct within the energy field that this is how my body reacted to, protection. And that's because of protection of myself. That's because, through traumas and, early childhood and such things, that you don't feel safe and you are, surviving essentially. So that I think there is certainly an element of that happened energetically as well. But Cura Romana for me, it is very graceful and very well. It's very hard to explain unless you kind of almost you experience it yourself. It's very hard to explain to people exactly what it is it's going to do. Um, from an emotional point of view, and how it just turns the dial down on stress and your reaction to stress. It's not that stress stops. I mean, we continue, we still have bills and mortgages and, you know, work and whatever. We still have stress, but it changes the way in which you react to stress. Um, so this is probably really why Cura Romana for me is sort of really an integral part of what I do, because when you're dealing with, a body that's sick, that's just not well, I suppose people tend to look at it from a sort of fix it perspective, because that's just the way that's just society, it's the way it is. So really what we're trying to do is to try and get the body to acknowledge and to understand that there are traumas, that there are patterns, that there are difficulties within the energy field that need to be addressed. So we can look at things from a physical point of view and, detoxify the body that way, with various things like homeopathy or some of the technologies that we use. But also the follow on to that is Cura Romana, because the link here is about education. The link is about, Cura Romana will give you a lot of education. And so many people have said to me, the amount that they've learned from the audios and the videos and the sort of the library of information that you have has been, really, really phenomenal. And, learning about things that you or I might think is normal, as in don't drink tap water, or heavy metals in the system, or
Yeah, such a
whatever it
heavy
is.
re-education system that has to occur because
Yeah,
yeah,
it has to occur. Yeah,
it's quite
yeah,
amazing
it
just
does.
how much stuff we think we know, or we think
Or it's
you know,
normal.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
normal.
our
This
normal.
is
Yeah,
healthy. This
yeah.
is not, and yet
Mm,
it's heavily backed by what I would largely call propaganda from advertisers in one form or another. And yeah, it's really interesting to see people shift, when they come to me and, oh yes, I eat a very, very healthy diet. And then they're like, oh, so what are you laying out in terms of your healthy diet? Well, I have a Diet Coke and I have, my whole grains and I have this, that, and the other. And you're like, okay, interesting. Okay, well, let's see how your body
mm,
feels as you move through the process, and let's see how your body feels through consolidation. And when you start to testing your whole grains or testing your Diet Cokes, let's see how your body reacts and let's see how your body feels. And that's the phenomenal
mm,
thing, because you can never tell anybody what is good for them and what is bad for them, particularly because it tends to stay in their mental capacity and it doesn't move into their body. It doesn't move into actually the feeling state. And so it's amazing when they do try it for themselves and they go, oh my God, I cannot believe that I used to do this. I feel awful. I will never put this
Mm,
through my body again. Um, and of course, what they always ask is, it's like, well, I was drinking this for years and I didn't feel bad. Why do I feel bad now? And it's like, well, your body will mask symptoms. Your body will do everything it can to make sure that you can keep going, that you can continue to function. And if that means hiding the headaches, hiding the gastrointestinal difficulties, doing what it can to push the toxicity into those inessential fat stores to keep them away from the vital organs, then it will do it. But if it has the opportunity to detoxify from that, substance immediately, it will also tell you, please don't do this to me again. But if we still
mm,
continue to
mm,
do this time and time and time again, then
mm,
it will mask symptoms and it will show up in
mm,
different ways. Often, weight gain in some people that have a tendency to do so. In others, just chronic inflammation throughout joints, and particularly in the lower limbs, because the body tries to push everything away from the vital organs as it naturally would to protect them. Um, so yeah, the re-education is a massive part of it, but also it seems to give a sense of um, often I always tend to describe it as like a warm shower or something. It's like it seems to just the the mental thoughts that perhaps just go round and round and round, the ones that we struggle with the most, and that we can't seem to step outside from. We're always part of them. Somehow the Cura
mm,
Romana, the essential spray, the food plan, just somehow allow us to just see them from for what they are, from a different perspective, from the innocence and the curiosity of a child. Just like, huh, that's interesting.
mm,
I wonder why I felt that all those years. And it just takes the emotional charge away from it. So people can just kind of go, okay, interesting. I've been choosing this for a particular while, and I'm not sure that I want to choose that again. What other choices have I got? And it becomes very,
mm,
very exciting. It becomes very, very natural, and it's so interesting to see from the first feast days where um, people will have a lot of different questions as they should, and they're all very, very kind of mind orientated. If I do this, can I do this? When I do this wedding, can I have this or everything? And then slowly it just starts to go. Day 10, day 12, I don't know what's happened, but I feel great. And you're like, okay, great. Let's see where it goes from there. And
mm,
then they're like, oh my God, I can actually feel my body. I can feel more connected to my body. And I often refer to it as this kind of dance between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Because no part, when you have a dance, no individual is in control. No part is in control. It is a unit. All three of them have to work synergistically in order to produce this very, very beautiful movement. And that to me is the whole goal of Cura Romana, is to find this dance between these three aspects of what makes up a human being: the mind, the body, and the spirit in a dance. They just move beautifully. Um, so yeah, I'd love to know. Um, we'll have to do a series of these interviews, because there's so much to cover. But I'd love to know just a little bit about your training, how you work, and how you work that is completely unique. I've been blown away so many times, because you're trained as a kinesthesiologist, but you work in such a unique way that combines so many different modalities. So yeah, I'd love to know a little bit about that. I don't suppose we can do that in a brief, in something brief. We may have to do another
mm.
interview with that one.
Well, I think, very often I do have people who say, what is it that you do? And try and explain it. Even I have challenges explaining it. And it's about what I do. But and then they're like, no, no, what is it exactly that you do? But it's kind of hard because, I suppose originally when I got into sort of therapies, I went down the road of energy work, uh, reflexology, Reiki, trained in shamanic work, um, all fabulous, and extremely well trained in where I got trained. Um, but then I started to explore kinesiology. So I am essentially working as a basis of a systematic kinesiologist. Um, and that is core to what I do. And especially in the program that I do, because it's essential to be able to actually um, test people and figure out exactly what it is that you need. So that is the kind of basis of what I do. But I have trained since then in so many different energy type modalities. I have researched and researched. I've studied and studied, and I still study, and probably always will. In order to just add to and add to. So really, the way in which I work is different every day and different for every person. But also, it does cover, which is really what I believe is really essential. It covers all of the pathways. It covers emotions, chemically and structurally or physically, and really the importance of this is that you can't just correct somebody who's really challenged in their health by saying take this
Yeah.
X remedy or X supplement, and then see how you go, or let's just work on some emotions today. Or I was finding it, I was getting probably a little bit frustrated because I had very little time with the person, and I had so much to try and explain to them. And I do believe if you understand what you're doing, or you understand why something is the way it is, then it's easier for you to try and deal with it. So I didn't have enough time, and people are not able to take on too much information, in a session, especially because it's the first time they may have heard something.
Yeah.
So I really did start to develop. Originally, it was quite fragmented. I had some people will say, "Look, the Cura Romana is really going to help you," or we need to fully detoxify your body, or we need to work on trauma. I do a lot of trauma work with people. So I decided that it was just ultimately to get the best results, was to put it all together in one program, which basically means that people come to me for a period of time. It's usually 5 days, Monday to Friday, kind of Monday morning to Friday evening. And they spend that time with me. It's one-on-one. And within that, I do testing through kinesiology, and ascertain exactly what's out of balance and what we need to do. And then I'm able to get them on those remedies from the get-go. And then I have a number of technologies in place now because of this exact reason, because the body needs support in detoxification. It needs support in different systems. It needs oxygen. It needs, all of these things. So we have put all that in place. And then I spend the week individually working with people. So I don't really work to a schedule, as in, we do this each day, because everybody's different. So we literally work with how we are going that day. So a lot of it is emotional work, and it's trying to get people to understand that things that they may have experienced in childhood, whether it was something that is trauma, but trauma means different things to different people. Some people say, well, if it wasn't this big one up here, well, then I'm not traumatized,
Yeah.
I have a lesser trauma, so I'm not in that category. But unfortunately, everybody is in that category because it's how the child experienced it, how the child understood it. So it's irrelevant as to which end of the scale you choose to put a trauma on.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it really is to work with everybody that way, and to get them really to understand that when we get this trauma out of this energy field, we identify it first, and then we're able to kind of get it out of the energy field. um we really are detoxifying the body on every single level, and that is mentally, emotionally, and physically, and spiritually. And that's where Cura Romana for me is essential, because I don't want people here for a week and then go home, via the chipper. I need them to really keep going and really understand that this is a health journey that they're on, and that they really can turn everything around. And in saying that, I'll also drop in there that this program is intense, if you want to put that word on it.
Sure.
It is challenging for sure, because you are challenging, belief systems and limiting beliefs, some of which people are aware of, and some they're not aware of. So you most certainly have to be open to doing it. You have to be at that place that I feel I certainly was when I started Cura Romana, which was at that point early of no return. I was in desperation of the light bulb going off, saying, there's no help here. Nobody's going to help me. I'm going to get a call every 6 weeks or 4 weeks from the doctor to say, you need to put your medication up. And that's it. So there was no support or no help. And it really is lack of direction and lack of belief that you can pass that. And really, this is what it's all about here. And working with you is to really get people to just try and take a breath, and to really relax into the fact that they can actually heal their body, but they need to be open to doing so. So it's not taken on lightly by any means by anyone who does it, but it is very successful when you just open yourself up to doing it, and
Yeah.
to really getting deep in there. So
And anything
um,
worthwhile is always challenging, and it doesn't matter what area of your life that is coming from.
that's true.
You have to shift and change certain
Mm.
belief structures that you have had, and entertain possibilities, and through that process, and it is challenging, but it's also very, very beautiful. Very beautiful to see that shift when it occurs. Yeah. So
Well, I think I think the main thing there really is fear.
yes.
And even when I started Cura Romana, I'll be honest, I spent a couple of months opening up the laptop and closing the laptop, going, I don't know, and that was fear, and that
Yeah.
was fear of
And it's the
won't work
ultimate
for
fear. It's the
me,
fear of the unknown.
yeah, a fear of the unknown, even though, to be honest with you, if Leslie Canton said so, well then, so it was,
Yeah.
I never questioned that for sure. But it is fear, and you know, there is a great sense of being uncomfortable, because you're about to change, you're about to make a change, for the positive, but all change is uncomfortable, and that's what we as humans usually have locked into our psyche, and we have it locked into our energy field, that change is not safe. And that's really what you're grappling with. So it's to really put that at ease, and to know that it is possible, and the body can heal given the opportunity. And nothing gives it the opportunity better than Cura Romana, because it literally lets your body get out of its own way. It gives it that opportunity to get rid of all that inflammation, to get rid of the toxins, but all in that very, very, very gentle way. So it's really allowing space physically and mentally to just allow that to occur. So yeah.
Yeah, beautifully
So
said.
I
And
don't
this
know
is
if that
why
answered
we've,
your question.
yeah, no, absolutely
If
it
that
does.
answered of what
Absolutely.
the but yeah. So it's vast, but
Yeah.
do you know what? At the same time, it's not complicated.
No,
It's
no,
not
it's,
magic, and it's not. It's actually very logical. What I do is a very logical way of working. So it's not a mystery. It's just a little bit difficult to
it's
sort of
all
put all of it
encompassing.
into
Mm,
words. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why we have kind of teamed up in terms of creating something that really is supportive for people, and particularly people that have been struggling in the way that you know that you have struggled, and in many ways that I have struggled in my late teens, early 20s, to really be able to get to the very depth, to the very core of what the body is struggling with, and how to restore balance and restore homeostasis. Um, and that's very exciting. And I think we should leave it there, so that we can give a little bit of a teaser for what comes next. And I'd also love to talk more about the focus health and more about some of the modalities that you do use. Some of them I'm very familiar with,
Hmm.
and some I'm not so familiar with.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I really appreciate you speaking with me. And yeah,
No,
hopefully we
thank
can do a
you.
series
It's
of them,
been,
and
yeah.
hopefully people will find it very, very inspiring and very, very useful for them. All right. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure, as always. So I certainly hope you enjoyed this first interview. And if you'd like to learn more about Gemma's work, you can find her on focushealth.ie. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Cura Romana, and if you want to get in touch with me directly, then by all means, just visit curaromana.com, and you can find a way to just send me a message and I'll get back to you ASAP. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.